Good morning from the Hostage Diaries. Today I am discussing my trilogy, the Fleur De Lis Trilogy, and we're going to start with a little background. The Fleur De Lis was a symbol of French royalty, and it has since been usurped, and I've got this theory about the New Orleans Saints, which is a religious organization more than a royal organization, uses the trademark, the Fleur De Lis is trademark. So does the NFL now own all the power of the French royalty because of the Fleur De Lis, that sort of mentality? So I wrote this book as an effort to try to come up with a different definition of the Fleur De Lis in order to program society. It's a theory I had, but that's where I got the name from. And it deals with the wealthy, which would be, and it has a royal twist to it in book 2. It was a education for the wealthy. I've actually got a school called the St. Louis School in here. It was like education and inspiration for the wealthy of Louisiana to hopefully evolve, diversify the economic base, and then therefore change the types of leadership to help the state. The state is currently bogged down in national party politics, and it's got a lot of economic investments, even though I don't think it's great economic investments. There's no tech divisions. You got a bunch of LNG ports, and which are owned by outsiders. There was a joke the other day. The Shell Oil owns the Mars platform in the Gulf of Mexico, and they just hit the billion-barrel mark. And so a billion barrels of, at let's say, we're going to underestimate, $60 a barrel. That's $60 billion produced by the Mars platform. How much of that you think went to Louisiana? Or how much of that went to Shell Oil? That's where I get into this. The ownership, Louisiana never built a major energy company, and so they get the pittances, jobs and taxes, crawdad, strip ball. And lion's share, I've got this saying, ha, Louis, the lion's share goes to outsiders. So the majority of the profits go to outsiders, which profits could be reinvested in the state. They get some in taxes, but not that much. The total, the Mars platform itself, we're talking about $60 billion. I think the total that the whole state of Louisiana gets from the Gulf of Mexico oil exploration is like $300 million a year. It's in pittances. They don't get shit. And it's because they never built. And the basis of Fleur De Lis is about a family-owned energy consortium, and they're not terribly well. They're worth several $billion, but it was a theory, and it also shows what with resources that could happen to the state. I was never allowed resources when I got smart. When I was stupid, I had tons of resources, but when I got smart, I'm alienated with no resources. So that's the basis of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read through book 1 and 2. I've printed out a it's 3 total pages to cover the whole 500 pages of books of just the basic plot. And then the reason for this is because I have got book 3 to write. Book 3 is, in my estimation, a historically relevant book, even though I can't get even a talent agent to look at it, because I invent a new type of government in the capitalist party. And I'm going to discuss that when I get there. But I can't, because of my medication, it kills my drive and it kills my depth. I lucky. I had 1 year where I could write Other than that, it's been real difficult to get to write enough to fill a whole book, and this is a whole book. So I've done the outline for book 3. So what I'm going to do is go through the outline of book 3 and ideas that I had, which I had planned on putting into the book for the historical record, because I don't know if I'll ever be able to write it. I doubt I'll ever get off the medication, because I don't know. And so the medication keeps getting changed and it keeps screwing up, and it's just that's the whole basis of this. So I'm going to discuss the theories that I have with the book 3. Is a very important book. It starts out as when I started writing it, I wrote the first 4 chapters years ago, and they weren't very good because I was still getting used to the medication, and I had to work my voice into the medication. And I did that when I wrote book 1 and 2, even though they're not near as good as they could be, the potential with my lyrical voice. But I wrote first 4 chapters of the book, and it was kind of like, it started out kind of like a New Orleans-based Gossip Girl, Great Gatsby, Atlas Shrugged combination. It's got a bunch of, and it showed Solomon Goldstein is the chief visionary for Jacques, who is Jacques Dugas is the billionaire heir to an oil empire, which is he owns a string of nightclubs in New Orleans, which is against his father's wishes. And my voice is cracking up. I don't speak hardly at all anymore, so I don't know how long my voice is going to last. So he's French American descent. His mother and father both have French blood, and I specifically put in there the type of blood because of the melting pot of Louisiana. Then Solomon Goldstein, who is Jewish, and his family owns a Goldstein's department store and have for 100 years on Canal Street, and he's a trustafarian, and he got a degree in literature and philosophy, and he's like the big brain of the operation. He ends up being chief visionary and he comes up with a lot of the ideas. There are a lot of big ideas. This book is all about big ideas. And then there is Harold Devereaux, who is African American from a law firm family. They all met at St. Louis School, which was a fictional private school in the French Quarter, which is it's shaping the leaders of tomorrow. And Harold Devereaux dropped out of Tulane. They all went to Tulane because they wanted to stay close to the party. There's a big connection to Tulane in this book. Harold Devereaux graduated from Tulane undergrad and was in law school and couldn't handle it. He dropped out and ended up going into the gangs with it. He has a cousin. His family owned a law firm, so they had money. But he had a cousin who was involved in gangs, who was a high-ranking guy in the gangs. And I get into why he dropped out of law school, and he gets into the gang, but it's necessary. Willie Riviera is Spanish American from way back. He has ties to when Spain ruled Louisiana. Spanish flag flew over Louisiana. I think his mother, is from Connecticut. His father went to Yale and is a judge who also has a weekly gig at Snug Harbor, which is a famous New Orleans Marigny, French Faubourg Marigny institution, jazz club. And so he's like Jacques' best friend from when they were young, and Willie ends up being a famous musician. It was heavily based on Harry Connick Jr. type character. And then Nicole Gambino is Italian American, and she comes from like 3 generations back, old law firm family, and she's a socialite, and she's a party girl and things like that. They're all partiers. That's where I got into the Gossip Girl sort of mentality. But they're in their 30s. But I flash back to when they were in high school some. I'm going to start with Fleur De Lis, Book 1, The Explanation. It opens at a Mardi Gras ball. Jacques Degas, notorious oil heir, playboy, meets friends, flames, Hebert twins, who owns Angel Wings Bourbon with a Degas family investment. Jacques goes to his parents' suite, and his father gives him an ultimatum to get married within 2 years. Jacques is with Juliette Laurent, a French banking heiress. There is an after party at the suite. Twins come to the party. Jacques follows one of them into the bathroom. Party hangover. Jacques concocts an excuse for his actions. Juliette meets with friend Nicole and determines she is a evolved player seeking private jet. Jacques and Willie Riviera buy Tipitina's. It's opening night party. Willie's band is playing. Jacques sees Bruno, security chief for family, and recollects when there was a murder at one of his clubs. Bruno took Jacques to an execution of a drug dealer responsible for the shooting. The crew takes a trip to Aspen. Willie is playing with band. During the show, Jacques is confronted by a gangster from New Orleans threatening him over the past murder by the Catalano family. Jacques' dad, Marcus, explains the intricacies of past problems with the Catalanos and about the family estate. Jacques takes Juliette back to France on a private jet. They're growing closer. Jacques and Bruno go to a meeting with Rocco Catalano to discuss his terms. It grows intense. Flashback to St. Louis High School and Willie's first real show. The crew goes and tries weed for the first time. An older girl takes Jacques' virginity in the back of a limo. Meeting with Solomon and Harold as Jacques prepares to go spend time in France with Juliette. Solomon has an idea for SkiResortTV channel, and Harold wants Jacques to be a partner to launder money from gang activity in the Treme Music Club. Jacques knows he needs soldiers on the ground Harold can provide. Willie and Nicole have a heated argument after an affair started during Mardi Gras. Their past first love triangles with Jacques is revealed. They protect the friend group dynamics above all else. Flashback to when Jacques had Tulane at a marijuana grow operation in the swamp, and he almost got married to a girl from New York City. Jacques gets an email from Hunter Walker about LouisIAna Latin America Economic Evolution Conference in New Orleans while Jacques is in France and sends Solomon for a meeting. Jacques meets Juliette's family at family vineyard in Burgundy. It is revealed that Juliette had tryst with old boyfriend. Catalano's mafia origin explained. No direct heir to Rocco. His daughter Lydia and a cousin Michael are the best bets for taking over. Willie and Solomon are in LA for Willie to do an appearance on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Nicole and Solomon have a conversation where LouisIAna Renaissance is discussed along with Louisiana Caesar and aristocracy. Jacques and Juliette are in Chamonix, and Jacques has a video meeting with Solomon about SkiResortTV. Opening night for Harold's Treme Music Club, and a limo picks up the crew. Jacques and the crew are smoking joints outside, and there's a drive-by shooting. Harold's gangster boss cousin DeAndre is killed. Jacques gets shot in the shoulder. Following morning, Juliette has big news for a video conference. She reveals she is pregnant. Jacques asks her to marry him. There was a call from Lydia Catalano who wants a meeting. There's a spark between Jacques and Lydia. She reveals it was cousin Michael that ordered the hit. Gang war ensues. The Latin America conference is a go-ahead. Jacques' father comes over. Jacques tells him about the baby and that they are getting married. He also discusses a $100 million investment in SkiResortTV. Marcus gives terms for the investment. There must be a major talent agency as a partner for the investment. The war rages. Lydia calls Jacques and offers to give up cousin Michael if they make peace. Jacques agrees and gives info to Bruno and Harold. They get Michael and peace is made. Jacques flies to LA to meet with the talent agencies about SkiResortTV partnership. He makes deal with CAA and Brian Lord. He now has to get the rest of the $1 billion to launch. Jacques and Juliet's wedding is scheduled for a country estate in New Orleans. Juliet's grandmother wants her to call it off because she goes into hiding about it to have the baby and she wants him to go into hiding and have the baby. It is revealed that the baby may not be Jacques and be the result of an affair with Olivier. They get a Dassault Falcon as a wedding gift from Jacques' parents and fly to St. Bart's. Book 2 opens with Jacques and Juliet on their honeymoon in St. Bart's. At Jacques' suite, there is a meeting of the core group discussing fundraising for SkiResortTV and turning Louisiana into a castle. Jacques and Solomon at Tipitina's. Jacques meets Lydia Catalano and talks. Jacques and Solomon at ski resort offices and discuss ideas for projects. Jacques and Juliet fly to Paris for a meeting to raise SkiResortTV money. They get $300 million. Jacques and Juliet run into Olivier. On the flight back, Juliet tells Jacques the baby may not be his. Jacques arrives back in New Orleans disgruntled and goes to Solomon's for a healthy discussion of the Juliet situation. Jacques and Juliet talk, decide on an open relationship. Jacques and Solomon have meeting for Latin America conference. While Willie is auditioning musicians at Tipitina's for supergroups, Hope Bro wows Willie and Solomon. Hope and Solomon start working together. Jacques and Solomon fly to LA for meetings with CAA. Jacques gets set up with the Atlas Shrugged actress Rachel. They have sex, begins Juliet's open relationship. Nicole and Harold meet for lunch at Dookie Chase. Harold meets Dominique from Jamaica. Nicole has a meeting with Juliet. They share secrets, become closer. Jacques with Rachel wake up. Jacques and Solomon meeting at CAA, meet with the tech investor. Flying back to Louisiana, Jacques listens to Solomon's tell about the plan for Caesar of Louisiana. Dissection of Lydia Catalano. Lydia meets Rocco and they discuss foreign investments, laundering money. Willie, working on his new bands, decides he wants to date a celebrity. He calls his agent and gets called with Georgina Klipsch, a famous actress. Jacques and Solomon discuss Art Mag Evolution campaign and discuss putting Nicole in charge. Jacques and Juliet fly to Paris for investor meeting. Success, $200 million more. Jacques leaves Juliet in Burgundy and flies to Dubai for investor meetings. Success, $200 million more. On the flight back, Jacques calls Lydia. Lydia reveals she had a crush on Jacques since high school. Solomon has a phone call with Hunter Walker. They discuss a Latin America conference and Solomon tells about Caesar plans, aristocracy. Asks Hunter to spread the word. Solomon meets with Hope. She has a crush on him. He is playing professional. She shares new music. Jacques goes to tips with. So there's a plan in there for the LouisIAna Renaissance with Solomon writing a book on evolution that's going to blanket the state, and they're planning on a tour with musicians, and Hope's going to become a huge celebrity for the Renaissance. Jacques goes to tips with Solomon and meets Hope. Then meets Georgina. Solomon and Jacques discuss with Nicole taking control of Evolve magazine at owner's suite party. Lydia arrives, they get cozy. Jacques goes over to Lydia's suite. They connect and start secret relationship. Jacques goes to parents' house for dinner. Jacques tells Marcus about Caesar plans. Secret meeting of bipartisan politicians to discuss Caesar agenda and what to do about Jacques. Meeting at Jacques' suite with the entire group. Solomon discusses excerpts from his evolution book. Nicole, Jacques, and Solomon meet to discuss problems with launching Evolve Art magazine. Plan for 100,000 free copies of Solomon's evolution book to blanket the state are sent to people who are signed up online. Juliet calls Nicole and says her friend, a billionaire Italian prince, is flying through and they want a meeting. Dinner at Commander's Palace. Jacques, Juliet, Nicole, and Raphael discuss politics. Nicole and Raphael get cozy close. Months go by with Jacques and Lydia secretly meeting. Lydia has $5 million to buy a house in the Cayman Islands and wants Jacques to take her. They decide to go. A private investigator hired by Mary Landry, based on Mary Landry, takes pictures of both of them together. Jacques has a speech to a few that is being video recorded about Caesar aristocracy plans to the state. For the speech, Solomon tells about the capitalist party and plans for it to form a new nation. After speech, Mary Landry launches a tack ad of party playboy Jacques as Caesar with pictures of mafia princess Lydia connections. Reactions by friends to the ad. Solomon and Jacques launch a media campaign all over the state with intricate details of all the credibility and plans for the state. Marcus gives Jacques a picture of Mary Landry's dad with Carlos Marcellus. This ad is a huge success and lots of support arrives. Latin America Conference is happening. Jacques and Solomon discuss issues and meet new friends. The night of the event, there's a launch for Evolve magazine at Tips. The Renaissance campaign is going strong. Willie goes on the Colbert Show. There are articles written about New York Times art and Rolling Stone. The bands they created are making huge waves. Hope Bro goes on statewide tour with Solomon's book. At the Evolve party, Juliet goes into labor. She has a healthy boy. The blood test says he is Jacques' son. They name the baby Louis. I actually am thinking about changing Jacques' name to Louis when I rewrite the book. There's a private event where the gold crown is presented to Caesar or Jacques by a close group of friends and aristocracy. SkiResortTV launch party in Aspen. Hope Bro plays a show broadcast on channel. Solomon tells Jacques about new friends in Argentina who want him to be chief visionary for a movement. That's where it ends up, and it makes reference to the plans for the future in book 3, which I've been working on. Book 3 has a lot more, 22 minutes in, has a lot of depth. It starts out, book 3, The Rise of the Capitalist Party. Book 2 is titled The Rise of Caesar of Louisiana. Meeting in Argentina with Jacques and Solomon, he's offered the role of chief visionary by a collective of wealthy from all around South America. Discussion of future of continent becoming world leader. It goes into the potential of turning Latin America into an economic hotspot using this plan as then the Pinots, who own Caring, buy CAA, which really happened, and been between me writing book 2 and 3, and they get a stake in SkiResortTV because SkiResortTV partner is CAA. Juliet smooths a transition with friendship with Matilda Pinot. Juliet comes up with the idea for a Louisiana alligator luxury brand and discusses with Matilda and with partner Caring. So they want to start a new luxury brand in Louisiana with alligator skin, shoes and purses and things. Then Ski Resort's global launch tour, the wealthy collective formed over fears of global debt crisis, leading to a people's revolution globally because technology used in democracies flaws as motivation for change of power. Nicole and Raphael become a huge global it couple and go on the Ski Resort tour. Nicole becomes producer for the Alpine Channel and starts exploring global regions to turn into programs. Hope does a tour of shows around the world for SkiResortTV resorts. People's Revolution launches a social media campaign with a coalition of influencers and celebrities attacking elitism. Influencers and celebrities donate 75% of their wealth to the People's Revolution causes. Massive fundraising for the revolution. Calls to eat the rich, tax the wealthy, massive debt problem. Solomon launches the celebs espousing failures of socialism, promotes freedoms in capitalism, flaws of democracy, no king's revolution, introduce leader Carl, plan launched to kidnap Prince Louis and assassinate Solomon. Throughout the book, belligerent essays against elitism and wealthy by Carl, released by influencers. Carl is the leader of the People's Revolution. He's the basis for my book, Electronic Oblivion, the same title, the same name I've used in that. Cruz starts a project with the help of Willie and Georgina in hope of recruiting celebs and infusing certain ideology for propaganda to espouse to public to tenderize society dealing with Caesar and Renaissance and globalization. Combat against the People's Revolution coalition of influencers and celebs. Brian Lord joins the LouisIAna Renaissance as a fellow. Pinot's infused Europeanization into Louisiana. A lot of these ideas are real ideas that I'm trying to undertake. I actually pitched to talent agents. I'm blacklisted by talent agents and ignored with these big ideas, but a lot of these are real ideas. And for the book, I embellished it and made it bigger, over the top sort of problems. Lydia buys a penthouse in Kingston and Jacques flies down for the closing. They meet with Harold and Dominique, who's a lawyer in Jamaica, and a new location for Treme Music Club announced, with partnership in Kingston. The Colombian cartel members interrupt dinner. They know Lydia's father and Harold and introduce themselves to Jacques. Louisiana Aristocracy Economic Development Council utilizes the billion-dollar-plus firm's assets for development throughout the state. Luxury resort areas planned on Toledo Bend. Jacques and Solomon discuss plans for the urban development of corridor between LSU and downtown with Hunter Walker. There's about a 3 mile by 3 mile gap between LSU and Baton Rouge downtown that I really want to develop. I'd like to put an R&D firm in there, and I'll discuss that. There's something called the Louisiana Home Brands Incubator, where he goes around the state, chooses the best products, and then takes them to this incubator and then makes them either state or nationwide, with growing bigger and bigger. These are ideas that I really want to happen. I would like to see that corridor between Baton Rouge and in Baton Rouge between LSU and downtown grow. To look at Austin, there was a video of Austin in 1999 and a video of Austin today, and it's just amazing. Austin it's grown into this major metropolitan area, over 1 million people. And there was when I was a child, I distinctly remember on WBRZ2 there was a comparison of the two sister cities, Austin and Baton Rouge. They were basically the same cities. The big difference between Baton Rouge has the petrochemical industry, and so it rested on its laurels, whereas the petrochemical industry in Texas is in Houston mostly, and Dallas. So Austin ended up developing a technology. Then you had Michael Dell, luckily, but Baton Rouge has grown. Austin is a major player, and Baton Rouge is nowhere near in comparison. So I think if you build this area between LSU and downtown, it vastly increases, especially if you put in their R&D facilities to grow some corporations and things like that. Let's see, where was I? Marcus and Letitia split time between the new estate in Cannes and New Orleans. Marcus maintains control of the energy company, with Jacques being so busy. Family pride is key. They've become the most powerful family in the state. Caesar Jacques appoints members and launches a Supreme Evolutionary Council to steer and plan future of the state, working with the Aristocracy Council. There's condemnation of detrimental effects of national political parties on the state, which leads to a Louisiana Pride campaign. Media raises stink over selection process and actual power of the council. Solomon and Jacques launch a media campaign for stabilizing structuralized adaptations of Louisiana leadership. Reiterates the big picture scenario of campaign and media release. Carl recruits Louisiana residents against Caesar Jacques against Cesar Jacques. Key group of operatives start socialism campaign. Group of gangsters from Monroe that joined Carl's People's Revolution. Assassination attempt against Solomon at a legalized marijuana concert in Monroe. Misses. Kills a performer on stage with Solomon. Harold's army attacks, recruiting partners from all over the state. Solomon gets mad with security. Cesar Jacques plan for Delta Megaplex in Louisiana. This is where I want to take, this is a real idea, turn the area that is Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and the North Shore into a major metroplex area, kind of like Dallas and Fort Worth. But growing the land, New Orleans is a constant threat to flood. It's a global jewel thing, and we're thankful for it, but risk management says develop the North Shore, and that's what this is all about. And Baton Rouge needs some direction. So this turns into, this would be rival the size of DFW and Atlanta, this major Delta Metroplex. So, meets with Aristocracy Council, develop plan for building new futuristic urban areas between Hammond and Slidell. Plans to implement new futuristic economic industries with development of universities, Tulane, LSU, and Southeastern. Form community to plan development in urban areas and futuristic economies. During the party at Tipitina's in the middle of the Louisiana Renaissance, Solomon reveals ideas for a plan for new religion metamorphosis with smart planetary management that worships scientific and technological advancement and has marijuana as a sacrament as method of legalization under the free religion banner. There's also the big promotion of when AI really potentially hurts the middle class workforce with automation of jobs, evolution to a humanism, capitalism, evolution of the species is another big proponent of the metamorphosis plan, and legalization of marijuana under free religion is the major reason why. Solomon and Jacques issue the proclamation, Wealthy of the World Unite, and discuss capitalist party in Switzerland during World Cup races. Argentina acquiesces to annexation of a new nation, 100 square miles in there to build a new nation. Pledges to join the capitalist party, full share 20 million, half share 10 million, looking to raise $2 trillion in capital. It spreads globally and many pledges arrive to newly formed headquarters. Southern Institute takes off with conference and magazine. That's another of Solomon's big ideas, and to try to evolve the South. Harold plans big opening weekend for the crew in Kingston at Treme Music Club. They open with New Orleans talent flying in. Willie performs along with the global sensation Hope. Members of the Mexican cartel introduce self. Colombians are also there revealing understanding of the South American plans. SkiResortTV adjusts to the future of TV with streamer service, new cable channels matriculate to streamers with transition with cable connectivity wiring. Jacques and Matilda discuss the direction of the channel. Murder of several high-profile wealthy by Carl's forces. Government splits form because of pending debt crisis and no solution. Solomon writes a plan and divulges. There's a great deal of interest from various nations interested in the economic partnership. Nicole has several hit shows. A music show launched by Hope and Willie performing for opening live from the Belly Up in Aspen. Nicole has also produced a hit show in Cortina. Raphael buys her a suite in Cortina. They grow closer. Juliet and Matilda's Alligator luxury brand take off, importing craftsmen from Gucci relationship with Pinot. Caring as limited partner. Solomon and Jacques are also partners. Solomon brokers deal with Neiman Marcus from Dallas, old friends from way back. Trillions in pledges is reached. Negotiations between nations get serious. Argentina is chosen for initial because of desire to turn South America into an economic hotspot. Agreement made and annex map drawn. Media starts condemnation of the capitalist party based on democracy rule. Solomon launches campaign for flaws of democracy, points out the monster of global debt catastrophe approaching. Wealthy buy major media. Reporters join Carl's cause and use social media. Metamorphosis religion gains huge following and spreads globally, riding popularity in weed legalization and modern approach to planetary management. Solomon concocts plans for a wonder of the world dedicated to the arts in France, for the rise of the King of France returns. Coinciding with a metamorphosis project, globalism 2001 type monoliths to inspire evolutionary art globally. Discussion of weaponized art by the USA. Carl launches plan to split up the arts between people's arts and pigs' arts. Massive divides form in the artist community. Kidnap attempt of Prince Louis by Carl's forces fails. A worker city is quickly built and workers recruited for the many building projects. A security force is hired to maintain order. Carl's forces try and start revolutions in the new nation, plant charges. 5 years later, capital city of Appaloosa is taking shape. Polygamy with S&M harems takes place. Legal ramifications to relationships written into law. Jacques takes Lydia as a wife. Juliet weds Olivier. Also, human cloning research labs. There's a grand opening stream of festivities, including opening of the casino. Oh, back to the human cloning research labs. Another reason for the metamorphosis free religion is the Christians are against human cloning and genetic editing, super babies. So the new religion metamorphosis promotes evolution of the species using science and technology. So therefore, in this new nation, the human cloning research labs to make super babies and clones. Grand opening of the stream of festivals, including opening of the casino, a film festival, university openings, fashion week, and a major festival. Limited hotels are packed and high in demand. Tourism is big business and tax base. Lots of world-class entertainment pops up. High-rise condos are popping up everywhere. Jacques builds his first high-rise and sells condos and office space. Corporations are building divisions and the recruitment of talent is taking place. The human cloning takes off in Capitolia. Jacques' first clone is born. Jacques and Lydia have a baby. Louis is growing up in Louisiana in France with grandparents. He is 6. Metamorphosis supports human cloning as evolution of a species and faces difficulties with Christianity. The Delta Megaplex takes shape and starts building new major urban area of North Shore. Wonder of the World is under construction of France. Campaign created by Solomon for Jacques and Juliet to bring back France royals is similar structure to Louisiana Caesar. Build towards the future with Prince Louis as the heir. Juliet is acting queen of France. USA shifts to left because of Carl's popularity and starts attacking foundations of Capitolia. Jacques and Solomon and several new key operatives plot scheme to attack foundations of the system. They use a squadron of celebs to spread the word of democracy flaws with massive debt crisis. They call for a meeting to negotiate paying off the global debt. They spark a global debt crisis. Capitolia is protected even though much of the global economy is in shambles, struggling to pay off the massive levels of debt. Jacques and Solomon launched the New Orleans Global Debt Conference, questioning mismanagement of insane parties and flaws of democracy to solve catastrophic calamity from massive levels of global debt. 5 years later, Capitolia is thriving socially and economically. Argentina is thriving. South America is turning into an economic hotspot like predicted. Massive parties for festival season that goes on for months. New types of society exist. Plans for another capitalist party location being discussed in Eastern Europe. The basis of this capitalist party is wealthy of the world unite form a vote. So it's no longer democracy. There are different classes. There will be democracy for the utilitarian controls of the bureaucracy, but the power lies within the capitalist party, which is like a country club that you pay 10 or 20 million dollars, and that's yet to be decided. So you join the capitalist party, you get a voting share. There are leaders, and that's something else. It could be like Switzerland's rotating group of president with 7 council members. I think I used that as an example in one of them. And I write a piece 15 years later. I wrote a short story 15 years later where Solomon is actually president of Capitolia. But the basis of it is it's a libertarian society that is looking out for the wealthy. But the collectivism of the global wealthy power is a economic dynamo. That's what turns South America into an economic hotspot, because of all the trade that is brought into that area of the country because of the popularity of Capitolia. So once South America goes from being lackluster economic to where it is an economic hotspot, and Argentina becomes a world power. They pay off the debt. The negotiations are that Argentina has $250 billion in debt, and the negotiations is they have $2 trillion in pledges or capital. So they spend $250 billion to pay off Argentina's debt and buy the country, basically, and a lot of other negotiations. And there's a lot more into the book that I plan on going into, and that's still up in the air. I'm constantly adding to it. I'm kind of glad I didn't write it right after book 3, right when I came, because I've come up with a lot of ideas since, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to write it. That's the question. So that's kind of why I'm doing this. And I'm making notes I'm constantly making notes, adding different levels to this, hopefully I'll be studied one day, and all my writings will be dissected by scholars. Come to all the different ideas that I've come up with, which are on Twitter, Facebook, and different books that I've written. So that's the basis of the Fleur De Lis Trilogy. It starts a new nation. The Capitalist Party is book 3, which is a new type of government, which is more like a country club than it is. And it used as an economic hotspot because of all the connections of the members, because they're not just going to become a member, they're going to use their connections all over the globe to bring in economic division. So their divisions of corporations, R&D facilities, futurism, they're very selective on the type of economic. There's a definite economic planning going on in the city and state. And I was going to discuss that, but it turns into just an economic powerhouse to rival the top nations in the world, China and the United States. And I don't mention much about China in there, but the difference is that there's freedom. It's similar to the Communist Party, even though there's a lot more freedom. It's more libertarian, which is you've got places like Dubai who are pulling the wealth of the world, but there's not a lot of freedom there. You have to, whereas this country would be, it's very libertarian. There's legal marijuana and psilocybin cafes and clubs, and nightlife is unbelievable. Casinos, film festivals, universities, legalized prostitution, which is controlled and regulated by the state. Taxation is based on, there's tourism, it becomes a huge tourist destination, so taxes on the casinos, the gambling. There are taxes, but there is no, that was one of the big selling points to the wealthy, is there's going to be no income tax, there's going to be no estate, this is for the Capitalist Party members, no estate tax and no death tax. And you have dual citizenships that they negotiate deals with. The backslide into a socialist revolution kind of adds the bad guy to the scenario, depending on which perspective you see it from. And so the taxation rate of is offset. Think about it. You pay $10 or $20 million, and I haven't decided. I'll probably stick with $10 million. 200,000 members at $10 million is $2 trillion. If you pay $10 million, but you build a condo in there and you don't have income tax and you base yourself there. I know there's all sorts of negotiations with when you leave a country, you have to pay taxes, but then there's no death tax, there's no estate tax. That easily pays for itself with the $10 million, the tax benefits. And it's just an interest. I think it's a historically relevant book. The book I can't write. The book 3 is historically relevant. It's a shame that I can't write it, but I've got the ideas written and put down in all these different forms. So that's the basis of the Fleur De Lis Trilogy, and I'm trying to think of any other major ideas that I've come up with, but it's a lot of the plans could be true, it could be fact, could be fiction, depending on how it starts out. So that's that for the day.